Yes, yes, yes. It is Tuesday night, and I feel all right, y'all. Welcome to the Dance Parent Workshop. I'm over here grooving like I'm Drake in the studio with this music. Welcome, y'all. It has been a long week. I am so excited for this Dance Parent Workshop like I am all the time, but this is a unique one because it is the end of the school year. It's the end of the school year. This is that time where parents and dancers are starting to reflect and look back on all the work that we did this year that got us to this point. We're looking ahead towards the goals that we have for next year and what do we need to do to put ourselves in a position to crush those goals. And so tonight, it only makes sense that we're talking about the future of dance. And the reason why we're talking about this is because it's come up so much. We've been meeting with families around where their dancers should go to put themselves in the best possible positions to succeed. I've been meeting with directors this week of ballet companies, of modern companies, talking about the types of dancers that are auditioning for their companies, directors of colleges that are talking about the type of students that are auditioning for their programs. And where is this whole thing headed? Where is this headed? Right now, the dance world reflects more of what it was when I was a dancer. And that was, 20 years ago when I was in school. It's crazy. It wasn't that long. I'm not that old. But it was a long time ago. Let's not be dramatic. It was a long time ago. But still, the dance world more so reflects that industry. And for the next 4 to 8 years, that's going to be shifting. And that affects everyone, whether you're getting ready to go to college or whether you're getting ready to graduate college. The landscape and what you're going to be expected to do will change. And so we're talking about this because it's changing right now. We are not in the golden era of a season of dance. We are building that golden era of a season of dance. So I can tell you right now, it's that time for you to send this to a dance teacher, a studio owner, a dancer that you know that needs to talk about the future of dance. We're going to talk about commercial dance, concert dance, where are those headed in the future? What does that look like? We're going to talk about choreography. And then the biggest of all, we're going to talk about for parents, what does the role look like? Because parents in the dance industry, your role as a parent looked so different. Let's say pre 1999, because there weren't any real serious dance programs that were also connected to universities. And then again, post 2012, being a parent and the role that you play looked different. And right now in 2022, we're going through another change where as more resources become available, as more opportunities become available, the different parenting avenues and the role that you have to play as a parent, sometimes you have to be the disciplinarian, sometimes you have to be the planner, sometimes you have to be the friend, the ear, the therapist. There's a lot of roles that you have to play as parent. And so we're going to talk about how that is shifting as well. But right now, go ahead and share that love. A brother's got to eat. We married now. My wife is leaving a company to come work with us now. We need to eat. So share this link. Tell your friends about the TDA Prep and the Dance Parent Workshop. Tell them we are different over here, and we will see y'all in 5 minutes. We'll see you soon. Oh, there we go. Welcome back to the Dance Parent Workshop, y'all. I'm glad to be here today. It is yesterday we had the last day of dance training, in-person dance training. We still have a couple of virtual private lessons left, but today was yesterday was the last day of in-person training for the school year. And for those that don't engage with TDA Prep, you haven't come to take a class yet, or you haven't come to see us, we are very I'm a big believer on showing up as your most authentic self pursuing greatness, right? So if you're tired that day, don't lie about it. Be tired, but lock in on where can you pursue greatness? How much energy do you have to give 100%? Let's not get in the habit of giving, 50% consistently. So that that energy, when you have that attitude with kids, I'm realizing the older you get, the harder it is to maintain that energy with kids. I have to do more. Like I gotta eat a different way and work out a different way to be able to hang. This has been a very, very great year where I've seen some kids hit goals that even they didn't think were possible at the beginning of the year. But it just takes a lot to keep up with it. So your boy is feeling the fatigue a little bit at this point in the school year, but it's exciting because we have big things for the fall coming, big summer programs coming. The deadline for summer registrations ended on Friday, so hopefully you got those applications in. Announcements will be going out on May 19th, on or by May 19th. We'll let you know if you've been accepted, and if so, what steps are next. If you did not get accepted, you will get an email from me personally telling you why, what you need to work on, what you can focus on. If you want to come to our program or other programs that are like ours next year, we'll tell you where the gaps are. So that's going to be coming. But yes, it's been a great year, a great busy year. We're blessed to be busy. That's a real blessing. So we thank everybody that's been a part of this school year for us, including y'all on the Dance Parent Workshop. This is our second to last one. I think on May 22nd. Is that right? May 31st will be our last Dance Parent Workshop of this school year. And I can tell you that things are going to be changing in a big way for the fall. We've spent, for those that have been following the journey, I've been teaching for the last 20 years. TDA Prep was born in 2020 in the middle of COVID. And as we've been coming out of that time and into more of a normal period for dancers going to full-time programs and institutions, the role that we play as support for that has grown and evolved too. And it's continuing to evolve. Next year, it looks like it's going to be the first year since COVID where college students will not be in cohorts, will not be in little small groups, but will be more in an environment more like what was promised to them when they originally applied. And so that is very exciting. And as all of the landscape across the country changes, as do we. So we are really thrilled to announce the fall, what the Dance Parent Workshop will look like for the fall, what working with us at TDA Prep will look like for the fall. We are going to talk more about that on May 31st at that last Dance Parent Workshop. So tell your friends about me. Tell them. All right, y'all. So if this is your first time, let's talk about the rules for the chat. So the Dance Parent Workshop, in this game, we are dealing today with the future of dance. Now, throughout the conversation, I go back to the chat specifically to see if there are any questions left, see if there are anything specific that I need to address. Now, for parents that are on this call, I recommend that you use the chat to type in your specific questions that are geared towards your dancer, because I'm going to see them. I'm going to give you that specific customized advice. It's not going to be general. The more specific you are in your question with the information that you give, the more that I'll be able to help. It's really difficult. I got an email this week from a parent that said, hi, my daughter's a dancer and I would like some help. Sincerely signed, right? And sure, I like to have a positive attitude, a go get them attitude about things. So I appreciate the challenge, but at the end of the day, the more that you tell us about your situation, the less challenging it is. So if you give us more, we can give you more. So please take advantage of this chat. Just drop it in the chat, and then during the breaks, there's about 3 or 4 chat breaks throughout this call today. Where I'll go back and answer any questions that were left. Yes. If this is your first time at TDA Prep, the Dance Artist Prep is a training club for dancers and parents that are pursuing daily greatness, college goals, and professional careers. So if your dancer wants to go to college, if they want to be a professional dancer, if they're just trying to get the leg up, point the feet harder, be at a studio that doesn't make them cry every night, or go to a studio that will help them get to their dreams, whatever the situation is, we are the secret weapon for families that are dealing with big dreams in dance. There were so many parts of my career where people would say, man, Preston, you're just like the best thing. We just don't want to tell people about you. And I really appreciate that, because it does. I know what that means. In the dance world, everyone is so, it can change. The energy can change once people find out about you. And so I know I appreciate the love, but I appreciate the referrals even more. I promise you, we keep it 100 over here. We offer training both in person and virtually for students and parents. Let me say it again, and parents. And one of the free offerings that we have is this program right here. It's the Dance Parent Workshop. So this is, again, just a big belief of mine that if we are raising the future generation of dancers, that's not dance teachers, that's not studio owners, that's not choreographers, that's not our job. It's parents' job to raise the future generation of dancers. And so for you all, if you've never been a dancer, how can you feel confident in the decisions that you're making? And so at TDA Prep, most of what we see with our relationships with parents is that once we start working, we take over the heavy lifting of all the dance decisions, and we start working with you as a parent to help make things calm, cool, and collected so that you can make decisions with confidence, knowing that you're putting your dancer in the best possible position, and also just stop the little road bumps that can happen along the way. Especially, you know how it is when your kid is like 13, 12 or 13, you have all the answers. Then once they turn 14, it's like instantly you stop knowing anything whatsoever and can't help them. So, there was a dance teacher that I spoke with recently. She passed away. She was like 90 years old, and she was one of those old school dance teachers. And I was teaching her granddaughter, and she's somebody I had a great deal of respect for, and it was an honor that she was proud to have her granddaughter train with me, because she was a legend in her time. And she told me, she said, it's important that you have dance teachers and role models. If you're not a dancer, if you have role models that are not your parents, because at a certain point, a kid is going to just clock that voice, and it's going to mean something different than it used to. And you need another voice to come in and say things that are continuing to move them forward, even if they're the exact same things that the parents were saying, just so that the kid can hear it again in a different perspective. And that has stuck with me a great deal, because that is, a lot of times the role that we play here is just trying to help make sure that a kid who is pursuing something as passionate as dance can keep it all together without having an emotional overload. So, y'all, if this is your first time here, you're in the right place. You are in exactly the place that you hoped you would be. And if not, just wait a little while longer. You'll find it. You'll find it. So summer programs are up. I hope everyone's summer plans are locked in. If not, it's time to get them locked in. You're going to want to send some emails and ask for some advice if it's not locked in. But there are a lot of, this summer feels like the first one where, all right, summer, we're back. Summer is back. Summer intensives, the best parts of summer intensives are back. And so I hope that you've prioritized quality training, and not just experiences, but quality training, and that you're going to get exactly what it is that you're looking for out of your programs this summer. At TDA Prep, like I told you, last day of school was yesterday. It's feeling real good around here. We're getting ready for the summer program now. I think we have about a month, well, maybe a little less than a month before we get to the virtual summer intensive, which is our first intensive. And if you are in New York, if you find yourself in New York around June 17th, that's a Friday, my wife's last big performance with Alvin Ailey. I think she has 2 more performances after that, but Alvin Ailey is honoring her. She is going to be leaving Ailey to join TDA Prep as one of our co-directors. She's been a principal dancer with Ailey for the longest, and they are doing a farewell Jacqueline Green night, a farewell night for her, where she's dancing a bunch of pieces that she just slays. And I'm excited to go watch her on the big stages at Lincoln Center. So if you find yourself in New York around that time, come holla at us on Friday, June 17th. We will see you there. So without further ado, let's jump on in to the Dance Parent Workshop. Tonight, we are talking the future of dance. And I thought that this topic was a really important topic to have because I see the faces of the students that I'm talking to as whenever we talk about college, whenever I meet a new family, I always ask this question in some variation of this, right? Like, let's assume that everything that we're planning goes perfectly. Let's assume that everybody does their job. I do my job, parents do their job, you do your job, the dancer, you do your job. And let's assume that. Now, what happens on the first day of your professional career? What are you doing? Are you doing a concert dance company? Are you doing a music video? Are you doing a world tour? Like, what does that look like? And it helps me get an idea of where the dancer wants to be when all this training and all this schooling is done. It helps me figure out how we can help them get to where they want to be. And the thing that I've seen on almost every dancer's face, but especially if they're coming from the convention world, if they come from the convention world, which is a big world and offers a lot of different opportunities for dancers, some good, some otherwise, I can see that there's this moment of hesitation because they're not quite sure where they should land or where they should end up or what's for them. It's like if you want to be a doctor, there's all these clear paths, and the dance world has those clear paths. But what happens if you want to be the type of doctor that doesn't have a clear institution for you to go be, the head of internal medicine? Like if you want to be something else, you have to create that path. And dancers right now that are professional dancers are forging a path that has previously been unseen. And your dancers that will be coming up in the next 4 years, 8 years after that, will be walking that path. And that path, I think, is much more friendly and inclusive. I'm going to tell you some stories today about just the ballet world and what they're dealing with and trying to navigate all of these different industries that take ballet. We're going to have some real talk tonight. So without further ado, let's jump on in. Tiana, I see you out here. Tiana, thanks for the love in the chat. T, it was good to see you this weekend. I hope you're taking those things. Your mom sent us an email. I know we owe her one back. It was a long one, though. I'm going to get through it. All right, so let's start off with where we currently are in the dance world. Like, what do we currently have? Because this is where dancers that are going into college or dancers that are graduating college or dancers that are young dancers looking up to older dancers, this is the current landscape that we're all navigating. Now, I anticipate this landscape slowly changing every year towards where we're headed, which is what we'll talk about next. But let's talk about where we are. So right now, we're going to split this up into two different industries. Right now, there's the professional dance industry on one side, and there's the education industry on another side. And if you've never been to a dance parent workshop before, this is probably a little difficult to understand. How could there be two different industries? It's really weird, and this is kind of what made me really dig into teaching and put both feet down and say, nope, I'm going to commit to this, is that if you're a young person and you're dreaming of being in the professional dance space, like you want to be on the covers of dance magazines, you want to be a choreographer or dancer for music videos or companies or whatever, if you have big dreams about being in the dance world right now, and then you go to your studio, which is supposed to be, the educational platform to get you to those dreams, most of the time, the education industry of dance does not naturally transition, for all my dancers, doesn't naturally transition into a professional career. It's like just because you're the best in your studio does not mean that you will be a professional dancer. It's actually no guarantee. And it's a high likelihood that you might not be. And that is not what parents sign up for when they pay for this for 10, 15, 20 years. That's not what dancers sign up for when they work their little hearts out to do everything that their directors or their choreographers or teachers are telling them to do. They're not doing it just because they want a pat on the head at the end of the day. They're doing it because they want it to lead somewhere. And so it's important that as a parent, you understand that these industries, med school leads directly into being a doctor, whereas the dance education industry does not lead directly into being a dancer unless you take travel a very specific path, right? So we're going to talk about these two industries, and this is where we currently are, right? So let's start with the professional industry. So in the professional industry of dance, you have your concert dance world, you have your commercial dance world. And if this is your first time, you're really going to want to write these down, because these are the basics of understanding the dance world: concert and commercial. So in the concert dance world, you have ballet, you have modern contemporary. Basically, concert dance means dance that is performed live on stage for a live audience, right? And that is, and I'm not talking about like a live television audience. I mean like a live audience that came to the theater, they bought a ticket, and this is what they're watching, and they're not a part of the show. They're the audience. And that is what really sets up the concert dance dynamic. So in that, you have your ballet companies, you have your modern companies. There are a lot of styles of dance that are performed in a concert way. And I think that is what is leading up to this new change that we're seeing happen. In that back in the day, dance was like ballet, modern, or, postmodern, or, we used to call the contemporary stuff a mix of jazz and postmodern, or contemporary kind of always existed, but you would have different types of jazz, right? Like street jazz or technical jazz. And they still have kind of maintained that, but the definitions have changed a bit. Whereas now, they found ways to take something that wasn't considered concert dance, like tap dance back in the day was not considered that. And they found, with Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk, that was a concert dance packaging of a dance style that wasn't previously considered a part of the concert dance world. And hip hop has done that. Rennie Harris presents hip hop in a concert and commercial dance way throughout his season. So all of these styles of dance in today's dance landscape have found a way. There's a way to present every style in a concert dance way. But if we're talking about the traditional concert dance paths that exist in the industry, those are the ballet companies and the modern companies, modern contemporary companies. So let's talk about those, because those are the biggest ones. Broadway would also be considered a concert dance style, but that industry is so consistent, and it's dealing with its own set of challenges post-COVID that are very different than the dance world set of challenges post-COVID. That's a separate conversation. But the concert dance world, let's talk about ballet. So the thing about the ballet world is under concert dance right now is that right now, classical ballet has a big challenge ahead of them. And the challenge is that, as we'll continue to discuss, things are moving into a more centralized space. And this is kind of how it's been for the last 50 years, every single dancer that is a serious dancer at some point in their training takes ballet for a very significant amount of time. And it's the exact same schedule as a dancer who's pursuing a career in ballet, right? So, for instance, when I was in high school, I went to a performing arts high school. I took the exact same classes as one of my peers who went on to dance with Milwaukee Ballet, Joffrey Ballet, Virginia Ballet. I don't know where he is now, but I'm guessing ballet. And we took the exact same classes growing up. And so this question that the ballet world has to start to address is, what makes you different? Because your ballet, and ballet is a very pretentious industry in that they genuinely believe that they are different. They are. If you go see a ballet company, there's something different about how they do ballet. When I'm teaching a bunhead who genuinely identifies as a bunhead, for those that don't know, ballerinas wear buns in class, and so we call dancers that really, really love ballet bunheads. But when I'm teaching a bunhead versus when I'm teaching a modern dancer, classical ballet, there's a difference in how they approach it and how their body executes it when done extremely well. But that's a very pretentious feeling thing to say out loud, right? Like that doesn't feel good. When you have a group of dancers that have grown up taking ballet every day, that was me. I grew up taking ballet every day, but I was not a classical ballet dancer. But I grew up taking just as much ballet, right? I took men's class, I took all that stuff. And so the ballet industry has to define what makes their industry. And right now they haven't, but they carry themselves as if they're different, because they are different. They do story ballets and they do a couple of contemporary ballets, but it's not as much as a modern contemporary company or another style of dance that isn't as narrowly defined, right? So we saw this play out this month. It got close to home because In December, Misty Copeland was doing an interview with Tamron Hall on her talk show. And on the talk show, I don't know if you've ever, if you all have never done a talk show before or done a live interview before where there's a lot of people watching, you're really just trying to get the idea out. And you say what you say, how you say it, and sometimes it comes out great, and sometimes it comes out trash. And Missy said something that came out trash. She said she was talking about how difficult it is in the classical ballet world, and she was saying that people come up to her all the time, and they're like, "Yeah, but as a brown person, there's a lot of dance companies, right? Like you have Alvin Ailey." And she said, "No, but the dancers in Alvin Ailey aren't classically trained. So, this is a thing." And she was speaking, for something that was from her perspective, but the words themselves weren't accurate because every dancer, especially the dancers that are at Ailey, but every dancer that has reached a certain height, like even the backup dancers from Michael Jackson, his This Is It tour, were classically trained. They were taking classical ballet. And so while the statement itself was errant, there is something about the way that ABT performs ballet versus how a company like Ailey would perform ballet. But even then, it's not up to the rest of the dance world to define it. The ballet world has to define it because they view them as differently. So if you are a dance parent and you brought your kid to me and you said, "I want to be a ballet dancer," they would have to pursue a path that had some similarities to the other dancers, but then they would have to be doing a couple of additional different things in order to pursue that path, because the ballet world genuinely believes and sees themselves as a different industry. Even though every dancer who's serious takes ballet every day, and it is a different thing. Not to say that they shouldn't, but it's going to need to be defined because things are moving closer to the center. So for ballet to exist way over here, it's just going to continue to be more and more ostracized and broken down. It's going to get closer to the center. If you think about it, ballet is done on TV now. It's done on Dancing with the Stars now. So You Think You Can Dance, I think, is considering bringing in a ballet category for the first time. It's becoming more and more commercial, just as much as it has existed in the theaters for the last hundreds of years. So we're at a breaking point with the ballet part of the concert dance world. Now, the modern contemporary world right now represents versatility. If a dancer graduates college and they don't want to be a ballet dancer, they're a modern contemporary dancer. If you want to be on Broadway or built for a contemporary company or built for a crossover where you might go be on TV for an episode of something, or something that's not as narrow as classical ballet, you're a modern contemporary dancer, right? Or you're a hip hop dancer or something else. But if you're in the concert dance space, you're a modern contemporary dancer. That means that you take ballet every day, or you take ballet a lot, but you also are well versed in the different modern techniques. And then you put that together to cut a rug, to bust a move, as one of the parents said on our call today. You're cut from that cloth. And so we separate the concert dance world, as at least the big time performers, as either ballet dancers or modern contemporary dancers, knowing that there's a lot of different careers that make themselves available depending on how you define yourself, right? So like modern contemporary dancer can go on Broadway. A ballet dancer can go on Broadway too, but there's not going to be as many shows that are looking for a dancer that just does ballet, no matter how great they do it. A hip hop dancer can go on Broadway, but again, the same. If you're limited to just hip hop, there's going to be less shows that you can do. Whereas a modern contemporary dancer, well, I take ballet every day, I take modern every day, I'm more well versed in a diverse thing, so I'll be more qualified for a wide range of jobs. Now, if you're a competition and convention dancer, there's a real thing here to look at, because you might be one of those dancers that is really, really excellent at ballet, and every time you go to the convention, you take a ballet solo, and that's how it goes. Well, better than probably most dancers then that ballet doesn't play in every room. It doesn't play to every judge, and contemporary doesn't necessarily play to the ballet focused judges. So it's about finding your versatility line and figuring out what to lean into to make yourself best prepared for whatever it is that your dreams are. But that's currently how the concert dance world is set up, right? If you look at the commercial dance world, when dancers graduate from college or graduate from high school and start to pursue commercial dance seriously, one of the things that you'll find when I ask them, what type of work do you see yourself doing? You know, they say commercials, music videos, world tours, TV, movie, that type of thing. So commercial dance, for those dancers that are brand new, this is dance that's done recorded. It's not done in front of a live audience. It's recorded, it's packaged, it's made pretty, and it's distributed for the world to enjoy, right? So the commercial dance industry looks a lot like a gig-based industry. It's gig-based, which creates an interesting dynamic because you have dancers that literally have to fight for their right to be a professional dancer every time they walk into an audition. And the first years of that doesn't bring the security that dancing with a dance company brings. And so you might get a check that's $15,000 in August because you do a big contract and then not get another check for the next 4 months. And that's a real process of learning how to support yourself, learning how to budget, how to live. But that's the commercial dance space. So you have concert dance over here, you have commercial dance over here. This is where we currently are, right? Concert dance over here, commercial dance over here. So if you are a convention kid and you are interested in being in music videos, being on TV, being a social media influencer, all that jazz that comes with that, you're forced to plant a flag. Like, all right, I'm not going to do concert dance and I'm going to go do commercial dance. But that doesn't mean that like you don't want to do Broadway, or you might want to dance in a company, but just not for 12 months. Like there's a lot of little nuance about these different industries where you might want to cross over, but because of where they are, it might feel like it's difficult for you, or that you're lacking something in order to actually cross over. It genuinely feels like two different worlds. You know, I've heard that a lot from my friends that are pursuing jobs in this. Like for us, when we graduated college, we went to school in New York. So there was a group of kids that were staying in New York. There was a group of kids that were moving to LA pretty much right away, right? And it really felt like, okay, you're either pursuing just by where you live, just the type of auditions you're going to, you're either pursuing this or that, not this and that. And so that's kind of a big thing that I end up explaining to parents, especially for the ones that are in college right now, because while this is changing, this is kind of what we're dealing with, right? So that's the professional industry. Now, let's talk about where the education industry is now. Where's the education industry? So if you're in the education industry, which all of you, for the most part, are, you either go to a dance studio, you go to a convention, you go to a competition, you send your kid to a dance education place to train, right? And those places look different across the country. Like if you're in Arizona, the dance landscape, the education industry looks different than it does in New York, than it does in North Carolina. They're just different, right? And so most of the time, dancers end up finding the middle ground by doing the convention or competition scene. They will pick a city that is not the city they live in, and they'll go travel to that city in order to compete their solos that they've been practicing. And because that's neutral space, all these dancers from all over the country get to meet, and those dance cultures that they bring with them merge into that space. But there's a really, really big headline that I need you to understand here. It's crucial that you understand this. And it might be disappointing, but it is where we are. And so I have to say it. If you're a studio owner and you're on this call, I'm going to encourage you to think about what role do you play in this, because we're going to talk about it a little bit. You might be someone who makes this easier. You might be someone that makes this more difficult. Consider this. So right now, the difference between the professional industry and the education industry is this right here. There's an industry of being a professional performer. That's the professional industry, right? That's the industry of being a professional performer, not a performer that goes to auditions, gets cut, and then comes up with some fantastical stories about why they didn't make it. I'm talking about a dancer who wakes up in the morning, brushes their teeth, and goes to work to dance, and then comes home, does their routine and wakes up and does it again until the performance happens, or is constantly performing. A professional performer. So there's the industry of that. And then there's the industry of making money off of kids that dance, right? That's the education industry right now. The education industry of dance is not designed to build a bridge from here to there, and they're trying to get there. That's where they're trying to head to. But right now, today, there's a big gap from the exciting, entertaining experiences of conventions, of school recitals, of auditions for like local high school level gigs. Those things are designed to make a dancer feel a certain way. And then they get marketed to you as, okay, well, you're getting performance experience. Oh, okay, well, you're getting the experience. Well, okay, you weren't good enough to make it into the performance. Well, how about you come help us backstage? That way you can get the experience of being on the crew and learning how to do lights, which is important. But again, this is not the experience of being a professional performer. It's not that bridge. Most of these organizations in the dance education landscape start their conversations with, how are we going to make money, not necessarily how are we going to serve. And I understand it's a business. You need to think about how you're going to make money, but we're dealing with kids and we're dealing with parents, and that doesn't help you, right? So conventions try to give you as much as they can without losing money, right? So they're trying to make their money off of, you can see from all of these different offerings that they have, as well as just where this leads. It's a dead end at 18, 19, whenever your studio says, all right, you can't come to nationals with us, you can't come to the group, it's over. There's no job that this translates to. Maybe your studio owner or a teacher might be able to help you get a job teaching or choreographing or something like that from high school. But the industry on itself is not saying, all right, here's where you go now that you're 18. It's time to continue your journey. It's literally up to you. And if you just wait for the industry to support you, you will get left behind and you will not find yourself being a dancer. There are more kids in the dance education industry than there are professional dance jobs. That's just what it is. There might be more kids at one convention than there are professional dance jobs. It's just a simple math equation. Like it doesn't work. It does not work. Shout out to Karina Dior. Simple math equation. So because that's the situation, it is up to parents to figure out, how do you turn the education journey that you're on into the professional journey that your dancer actually wants, right? And right now, that's left up to you all. That's what parents have to figure out. And so you come to things like the Dance Parent Workshop, or you go to college fairs, or you go talk to your studio owners, teachers that you meet, and you try to get some type of perspective, because you feel every bit of this pressure right now in translating, what does my dancer say they want to be, into how they actually become that, right? So this is a big thing to understand before we even jump in too deep. You just want to understand that it's a little bit different. It's a little different than how it would be if your dancer was pursuing medicine. Like, I think about it all the time. If my kid wants to be a football player, now I never played football, can't tell, never played football, but I love sports, I love athletics, I love a good competition, and I know the body. So, and I know what it takes to get from here to there, if there is a really big goal. And so if my kid played football, I wouldn't feel like, oh no, I don't know what to do. There's a whole industry there that's designed to support you in getting from here to there, if that's where you want to be. If they wanted to be a lawyer, if they want to be a doctor, same thing. But the dance world is unique, and it's important that every parent understands this, that just because you're doing something in dance education, it is more likely that that thing does not lead to a professional career than it is likely that it does, right? And so that is very, very important. Very, very important. Let's go to the chat for a couple of questions before we talk about where it is headed, because it's headed to a very fun place. Hey, let's talk about where it's headed. Elena, what's up? Team Korean in the building. Karina Dior, we missed you at the end of last week, but I was very glad to see David in the building. Very glad. Heath and I are in agreement. We really like that guy. He's a cool guy. Jackie said it too. It's a cool dude. Cool, very chill. Very chill. Julia Lee, not Jay. Really P here. What are you hearing results of company auditions this spring? Hiring or not? Ooh. That's a good question. Ooh. And that's such a great question because there are companies right now that we are waiting to see who they hire, if they hire. This is a really weird year. There's dancers that we are responsible for getting into companies. And we've seen two of our dancers get into companies this year. And we've seen two dancers so far not be offered contracts this year. So we've been a part of the audition process a lot. And then also we're just friends with a lot of artistic directors at companies. And the general consensus is the same right now, in that they are not hiring as much as they either should be, just based on the quota of what they try to maintain, or based on the year, right? Like they either don't have a lot of jobs, or they just don't care to fill those jobs because maybe their schedule isn't as intense as it was. I don't know. I'm trying to wait until this audition season fully wraps up before I go start like poking the bear a little bit. I like to call my friends and ask them, why did you hire that person, or why didn't you hire that person, and hear what they have to say, because the perspective is what will help as your dancers get older. So I'm still waiting until the end of this month to when all the auditions are done to start to poke the bear a little bit. But I have some questions, because it seems like there's a lot of companies, specifically modern and contemporary, not as much for the ballet world, but modern and contemporary, that are not hiring as much as they could, or as much as it feels like they should. And that is a reality. But I have a feeling it's because COVID is starting to wind down, and we're starting to just kind of get used to what the new narrative, what the new, reality is going to be for us. Dance companies are just starting to adjust. And so I have a feeling that this year they're going to be moving slow as they pick up full time again, because this is going to be the first year where they really, really try to be full time, like it's 2019, 2019. But that's a great question, and I'll keep you posted, Penny, as we start to get a little bit more clarity. But it's feeling like right now is just not. I'm glad she's not a senior right now, because this is a really weird time. It's a really weird time. Candace says, so glad we have you to give us the 411. So enlightening. Oh, Candace, I appreciate that. I hope Maya is having a blast. I'm excited to see y'all very, very soon. Very soon. So let's jump back in. Where is the dance world headed? So we talked about what we have. We have the concert world, we have the commercial world. Those worlds function a very specific way. And then we have the education industry, and that world functions in a different way. And the relationship between the two is a little, what do they call it? Finicky. It's like, it's a little scraggly. It's rough. It's ratchet. It's not a direct link. It's something that requires a little bit of love, affection, and intentionality in order to get from here to there, right? So now, where are we headed with this? I spend so much time talking about ballet because ballet is it's its own world. And so it's a little bit bigger as far as all the moving parts that are there. So the ballet industry is going through a really big change right now, because there's always been, COVID really changed things with ballet, because people have to ask, do I really want to go see that? Do I really want to, I understand it's tradition. I understand we go see Nutcracker every year. Do I really want to? Why do I want to? Or why don't I want to? Okay, I went and saw Nutcracker this year. Romeo and Juliet's coming out. Do I really want to? And so the ballet world, because it's ballet, it's not billed as just dance. You're going to see ballet. The audience has found themselves as either die-hard ballet fans or non-existent. Right, it's one of the two. It's much harder for the ballet world right now to have a casual fan. You'll notice that in smaller markets, the ballet that doesn't have a loyal fan base. The ballet isn't bringing in, the person who's just curious right now. It's much more of a choice to decide that you're going to go sit in the theater with a face mask on, where people are, doing. It's like whenever it's dark and everyone's supposed to be wearing face masks, it's like all you hear is people coughing now. And then you guys sit up here and watch these ballet dancers, who may be good or may not be good, perform for you and try to convince you that, you're in this fairy tale wonderland, while, this person is coughing with the vibration right next to you. I'm not talking about that regular cough. I'm talking about that wet cough. That cough that sounds like it's just that got that ring to it. and I'm supposed to stay in the fantasy while all this is happening. It's just really hard. It's kind of like the Oscars, right? Like after Will slaps Chris, like how do you stay in the fantasy of, of this thing? And so the ballet industry is getting to be a lot more like the contemporary world, and that they're doing more and more contemporary ballets. They're doing shorter ballets. They're not doing full long lengths. It's shifting as to how they present themselves, and it's starting to hit a gray area where it's moving less from the extreme of we're ballet, we're different from everybody else, we're something that's so unique, and it's starting to be them selling the more universal sides of dance, just the beauty of dance. You're hearing the pretentious language in marketing a lot less, and you're starting to hear more of the inclusive language, because we got to sell those nutcracker tickets. So that's the idea there around where their identity is headed. But then also, it's important that dancers that are considering being professional dancers, when you become a professional dancer, for most dancers, their artistic growth stops there. And it's unfortunate because your body becomes more and more capable, but your artistic growth stops because you don't even realize that it's no one's responsibility to help you grow as an artist. When you're a kid, you don't realize that because everyone's helping you grow. Your parents are doing the scheduling, they're doing the driving, the teachers are doing the teaching, the choreographers are doing the choreographing, everyone's doing it all. But when you become a dancer, it's not about you. You don't get to pick your choreographers most of the time. You don't get to pick your seasons. You don't get to even pick your casting. And so you're just a part of an experience that slowly starts to feel like a job. And unless you've been trained or know how to translate that into your own personal artistic journey, it's hard to grow in that. Most dancers around year 3 or year 4 start to talk about their companies as if they're holding them back. This is holding me back. I want to grow. I want a more diverse experience. Whenever you see a young dancer leave a big company, it's mostly because they're looking for more artistic growth. And unfortunately, the ballet world right now lacks the leadership for personal artistic growth. It's a real personal growth looks so many different ways. And so it requires a leader, no matter what part of the institution that you're in, to be present, non-rigid, and tapped in to what a person is going through, because artistic growth looks different for this person than it does for this person. And so I can't just have this one path in my mind and then have a dancer who's dealing with a problem and give them authentic advice. No, I'm just going to be able to tell them about this one path. And the ballet world has always been one path for so long, but now it's opening up. I think, what was it, Midnight in Paris was the big Broadway musical that was ballet based over the last 10 years. And that was a huge shift in how Broadway is presented, or how ballet is presented on Broadway now. And so now right there's more job offerings. The industry just got bigger in terms of how the audience can see it, but where's the support in that? Like, where is the backup for a dancer that's actually trying to live that experience? So the ballet industry in general, where we're headed, is it's becoming a lot more contemporary than classical. And dancers, I think, are starting to get wise to the fact that they need to pursue their own artistic growth opportunities, meaning they're doing more galas, they're doing more gigs, they're doing more one-offs. If you're a fan of Misty Copeland, it's now more likely that you see her outside of her dance company than it is that you see her inside her dance company, because the dance company can't do as much. It's kind of like, it's a similar thing. This is a real stretch, y'all, but I love sports, so and I haven't talked about it yet, so this is just a big stretch. I might want to warm up first, but it's happening right now in fighting. I'm a big fan of like boxing and UFC, and the fighters right now are if you're in a contract with a company, that means that you can't. If there's some famous YouTuber who's going to get you paid more than you'll ever make in your entire career, or Floyd Mayweather wants to fight you on pay-per-view for $1 million and you'll never make that money in your career, if you're under contract, you can't take that. And you might be popular because of, press or social media or something, and there's no way for you to really cash in on that because you're currently under contract. And the dance world has been very rigid in that same way. Like, I remember moments where my wife was not able to do photo shoots or brand partnerships with big brands because this every year, actually, there's always a brand that she has to turn down because she has an obligation to her company and they're not flexible enough to give her a little bit of leniency in this day, even if they don't need her, right? Like there was an opportunity this year. I'm not going to tell you a business, babe, but there was an opportunity this year that popped up that she wasn't able to take advantage of because her directors told her, well, you're the backup for that day and we might use you. And so she didn't take advantage of the opportunity. She went on tour, and then the dancer who was doing the role that night got injured, and they did not put my wife in. They ended up changing the ballet because it ended up affecting so many different things. It wasn't just a one dancer fix. And that is a perfect example where, I didn't even really need to be here anyway. You just changed it. And I asked if I could be off, but you didn't give me that opportunity because we're so rigid in what we're doing. And it works for the business, but it does not create personal artistic growth opportunities for a dancer just on its own. You have to be very intentional about that. So that's the ballet industry. That's where we're headed. I think we're headed into a world where the dance companies are more flexible. They're starting to give ballerinas, specifically the ones that have huge brands, they're starting to give them the flexibility to be affiliated and a part of the companies without actually fulfilling the same obligation that they would have had to fill maybe 6 or 7 years ago, so that those dancers can go and find their own personal artistic growth opportunities and then come back and slay it with the team after you get done this fall, right? Like there's always some type of agreement like that. Now, the modern contemporary industry, that's a little bit different. Right now, dancers in that space, it's kind of been similar where they in the past they weren't ballet dancers, so they couldn't bill that, and they weren't, if you weren't like in a big company, then it was very difficult to try to explain to people what you do, right? Like I dance. Well, what kind of dance? Modern. What does that mean? It means I can do contemporary. It means I can do jazz. It means I do Horton. Well, I don't know what Horton is. I don't know what Graham, right? So like trying to get a person who doesn't understand what dance is to understand what you do on a day-to-day basis is very difficult if you're not something like a ballet dancer or a dancer that dances for a specific company, right? Like it's a real nuanced kind of journey, right? So what's happening for modern contemporary dancers is that they're starting to cross over and do brand and entertainment gigs. Like even if I just look at my wife's journey in dance, it's gone from being so many like guest opportunity to where at the beginning of her career, she was a guest of Royal Ballet. She was just performing. And whereas now it's more about brand partnerships. And, she was the face of Ralph Lauren last month and Christian Dior in December. And, there's movies that are coming out that she's in, and she's on Netflix right now, actually. So it just looks different if you pay attention to the contracts and the W-2s. It just looks a little bit different for modern contemporary dancers. There's more brand crossover opportunities because dance en masse is more universally well known. Not just ballet, not just hip hop, not just the style of the week on So You Think You Can Dance, but dance. Are you a dancer? That means something different now than it used to mean 5 years ago, 10 years ago. 10 years ago is, well, what kind of dancer are you? And now it's very different. Oh, you're a dancer. And then they'll ask what kind of dancer you do. But I'm already interested because dance as a whole has more value in society than it did before. So the modern contemporary world is changing in that sense, where dancers who are in big companies are starting to look for more freelance gig opportunities to support them while they're with their companies. They're starting to find big brand partnerships, television opportunities. So in general, the modern contemporary industry, that's going to look a lot more commercial. A lot more commercial. I don't think it's going to change for a bad way. I think a lot of people will think that it's bad. A lot of the diehards, like we we post on social media all the time our training videos, right? And we train with Graham, which is a modern style, Horton, which is another modern style, and then classical ballet. And we do contemporary, we do jazz. And whenever we post a video where dancers are doing an exercise that's from Horton technique or Graham technique or another specific technique, there's always somebody in the comments that's like, that's not real Horton. or that's not real, Graham. And that mindset is slowly dying off. Like that is they can be right, they can be wrong. I don't know. The exercises are right, and whatever they're seeing that's making them think it's wrong, okay. But at the end of the day, it works for getting dancers in an educational environment where they can learn what these exercises are supposed to give their body. It's no longer about being the best of one style of dance. That's not what it is. It's about understanding what all these styles of dance can do to make you as a performer the best version of yourself on stage, right? And so that is where this whole thing is moving to, especially with modern contemporary. I remember it being a whole thing of like, well, are you a Graham dancer or are you a Horton dancer? Or are you a contemporary dancer? And then a dancer from So You Think You Can Dance would like come in the room and they would be like, oh, well, they're just on TV. And now it's changed so much where no one really cares if you spent the last 12 years in a school learning one technique at an expert level. It's really more about what do you do with it. All right, now you can dance. Cool. You know how to move. You know how to control your body in a lot of diverse ways. What are you going to do with it? Because you could be in movies, you could be on Broadway, you could be in a company. And I think people are starting to open themselves up. COVID kind of forced that, where modern dancers, or better yet, just concert dancers in general, had to pick up a screen and record themselves and had to start to see themselves in this light of being more diverse. So for those dancers that are like, I never want to go commercial, I want to be a modern contemporary dancer, I often tell them, at some point you're going to do a commercial gig. At some point it happens. You're going to do a commercial, you're going to do a TV show. It's going to be something that you need right at the right time. You're going to have a friend who's choreographing a Gap commercial and they're going to pay you $5,000 for a day. You're going to say no on principle? Huh? That's just not how it works, right? So being more diverse and being trained to do a diverse job is the name of the game based on where we're headed. If you, this is another path that I get very often from ballet dancers. There will be a ballet dancer whenever I'm dealing with a young person who says, I want to do classical ballet, period, full stop. I have to ask them, let's say that you never make it to the big ballet stage. Well, there's a million small stages that'll put you on there. Like, do you want to dance for 1,000 people, or are you okay dancing for 100 people? Do you want to dance and make a living, or do you want to dance no matter if you can afford to eat or not? Like, it's up to you, because the ballet world has that big of you could be in a regional ballet company and still be a professional ballet dancer, but not making a living where you can support yourself, right? Like there's a lot of ways to do that. And so I always ask them that question. And it's funny because in their mind, especially a young person, they think because I'm doing ballet in a way that's different than everybody else, it's more superior than everybody else. If ballet doesn't work out for me, then I'll just switch over and do contemporary ballet and I'll do modern. And that's easier style dance, right? That's what they tell themselves. And it's just as hard for a ballet dancer to switch over as it is for a modern dancer to switch over. And so it's really important that as you start to plan for the future for your dancer, is that you get them a diverse base of knowledge when it comes to their dance training, and help them understand their dance training in relationship to how it affects their body, not the specific thing that they're doing, right? I think that's very, very important. So let's talk about the education industry and where we're headed with that. So remember, that was conventions, competitions. The dance education industry right now does not naturally fire into the professional industry, but I can see it. I don't know if y'all get the same Instagram ads that I get, but the education industry is a changing. It's a changing. There's a big focus now on individualized training. I remember a year and a half ago when we started Dance Parent Workshop, when we really started TDA Prep, no one was really talking about college support for dancers. No one was really doing that. There were a couple college fairs, yeah, but specific college support wasn't a real thing. And now this summer, I've seen a lot of programs that are offering individualized support. None of them look as good as the college coaching available at TDA Prep, but it's out there a lot more, right? Individualized training is becoming a thing. When I look at the programs that are out there, I'm not going to name them because they're out there, and some of them are good, some of them are not, but they're starting to become a thing where dancers can sign up, go get customized training, and be on a journey that is catered more towards their strengths than weaknesses. And that is a very different approach than I just got to get into the biggest school. I got to get into Alvin I got to get into ABT. I got to get into USC. And then, their program, whatever their program is, will just work for me. Right. And it's designed to work for thousands of dancers every year. It's going to work for me. Now, those programs still work. If you work them, they still work. But the focus is shifting now to a more bespoke, individualized, we call it white glove coaching. That's what we offer here at TDA Prep. And there are schools that are popping up trying to offer a similar experience for dancers to know that they're on the best journey for them, right? So education now is going from being this convention, big, come join the big party, and it's now becoming, you have your own party. We want to come join that, right? We want to come join that. Another thing is the college focus. It's real. You can find college support. Now, here's the issue, though, that you have to really watch out for is that one thing that hasn't changed is marketing is marketing is marketing. Schools know that these top 5, these top 10, these top 20 lists, they matter in parents' minds, especially for a niche industry like dance where you don't have a lot to go off of. And so they pay for those spots. They use their relationships for those spots. And it's not as much based off of what is making it. Like for instance, man, this really blows my mind whenever I hear about a dancer picking a college. There are only a specific, there's only like 4 or 5 schools that will guarantee your dancer graduates as a working professional, no matter what industry, whether it's commercial or concert dance. There's only, let's say 5 or 6 schools. That's it. Other than that, there's some schools where 1 or 2 dancers will have a professional career, but there's no guarantees. And then there are a lot more schools, a lot more. I'm talking about hundreds of schools that have dance departments that will not lead to a professional career in dance, period. They will not. They don't turn out alumni that dance. And if they do, they're dancing on like a cruise ship. Or I've seen schools that say that this dancer danced for Beyonce. And I was a part of that thing. And I know that dancer was one of 75 that was hired for a one-off, not a dancer that's on tour. It was a gig. And so there's so many college programs that will still let your dancer sign up for a degree and a major, and you'll be behind. And you will not be setting yourself up for a professional career in dance. You'll be setting yourself up maybe to be a teacher or a studio owner one day. But unless you like willingly signed up for that, to me, that's a big problem because it's just too much money to be spending. So just because there's a college focus, just because there's a college fair, or just because there's a degree that a college offers, that does not mean that that's a great thing. That does not mean that that they're experts at this. A lot of these schools reach out to us. They reach out to us asking for a placement in the Dance Parent Workshop, asking for us to promote their programs, or asking us why we don't promote their programs. Like, that is a real piece that schools look to right now. They don't look to making their programs better. They look to figuring out how they can appear that they've made their programs better. And so that's something that parents have to really do your due diligence to know. I use this example all the time. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter to ever shoot a basketball. And I grew up in the generation of Reggie Miller, right? So this kid is the best to ever do it. And he went to a D2, D3 school. What's Davidson? D2 school? D1. He went to probably the least famous D1 school you could go to, right? Where there's no guarantee you're going to play in March Madness. There's no guarantee there's no flashing lights. I don't know about them, right? So that means that your average sports fan isn't really on Davidson isn't on their radar. You'd have to be a diehard. So a lot of schools are like that, where sure, you can come out of that program and be great, but even more schools will actually lead you to a spot that you're not trying to be when you signed up to go to that program. So the education industry is moving towards college focused, but even though it's moving there, it doesn't mean that you should just jump on board with everything that you find. Use college programs, use college fairs to be introduced to programs. Don't drink any Kool-Aid, because everybody can give a nice presentation, but don't drink the Kool-Aid, but go in and learn about the programs that you didn't know existed, and then get on Google, do your research, send us emails. Let's find out if the program is actually right for your dancer, as opposed to just like, this is a great program. There are kids that I know that went to Juilliard that are not dancing professionally right now and are not in a position to, and don't even want to dance. There are kids that went to Fordham, same thing. There are kids that went to Harvard that are homeless. Like it does not, there's not one school that will guarantee a successful path. You have to do a little bit more homework still to find the right place for you. So with that, let's jump back in the chat. Oh man, the chat is active. Order of operation says none of them do it as well as TDA Prep. Amen to that. Glad we found out about you and wish we had years ago, man. Isabel, what's up? Man, I'm glad that you found us as well. This is the perfect year for McKenna to start to work with us. And she is not behind. She's kind of in a perfect spot to hit her goals. It's really interesting because at TDA Prep, like, as a dance teacher all those years ago, I've been teaching for 20 years. At 16, I think I was too kind of young and dumb to have any insecurities about doing this thing. And then you get to college and you start to see these big goals. And I went to college with the idea of being a professional dancer. Like, that's why I went to school. And it took me, I think, 5 days. It was my first week, and I was dealing with a life problem because I realized I don't want to be a professional dancer. All my teachers are telling me I can, and blah, 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 but I don't want to do that. And there are a lot of insecurities that come with doing something that no one is doing, right? And TDA Prep, a lot of the stuff that we're doing, like dance parent workshops, a lot of these things, no one else is doing it. So I wonder a lot of times, like, man, is this what people do? Can people really use this? Can we really help people? And so, Isabel, to hear this and to meet people like you and McKenna, who I'm very confident that McKenna's journey is going to be night and day different, just because of how we're going to show up for her and be a champion for her. It's just awesome. It's just awesome. I feel like in this season of TDA Prep, I'm past that insecure season of, wondering if this is actually valuable and actually good, and more into now just jumping in and making sure that it's the best possible situation it can be, because I've heard from parents like you so much that it is valuable and it is good. And that's just something that we typically, dancers don't think about. Even my wife, I hear her talk about it. She is celebrated as one of the best performers on stage. I celebrate her as the best dancer in the world, period, no debate, right? But the rest of the industry celebrates her as one of the best dancers in the world. And when she thinks about leaving that career to do something else, it would have to be something as impactful as affecting human development, affecting humans that are on this journey and using what we know for the next generation. And so it's really cool to hear words like that, to hear stuff like that, Isabel. Man, we are on Team McKenna. We will see you on Thursday, girl. Thanks for the chat. Marcita says, so what's the major difference between earning a BFA versus earning a BA in dance? Does a BFA lead to bigger opportunities? Marcita, what's up? I hope we get to see Gianna this summer. That's a really great question. There's no real difference. It's more about the program, right? So sometimes BAs, like a BA will mean that you had to do less hours in the studio, right? And maybe that time was less hours and more academics. Whereas a BFA might mean more hours or less hours. Every program is going to handle that a little bit differently. So it's not necessarily like a one size fits all, but it is more about what you do with it. I can tell you that there are dancers that I know that don't have BFAs but have certificates or some other thing that to me doesn't seem real, right? Like, because I have a BFA, I'm like, well, what's the certificate? But those dancers are dancing just as successfully as dancers that have BFAs, and I can't deny it. So it's just what they needed. It's just the path they needed. Sometimes a 4-year university or a BFA or, whatever the general thing, that path just fits with the family dynamic or fits with the dancer's specific journey better than another program. And so that's their path to success, right? And I feel like the BFA and BA is a very similar thing, but it's all about the program you go to, because like if you go to a certain type of program, it doesn't matter if you have a BFA or a BA, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. It ain't it. You're gonna be auditioning for cruise ships till you're 40 years old, trying to figure out why you're not booking it. And that is not the way. So that is, make it more about what the program offers, how much time they spend dancing. That's a big one. How much time do they spend in the studio? And then what's the quality of their interactions? What type of choreographers are they working with? Where do they choreograph? A lot of these schools, man, I'm going to tell you, a lot of these schools will tell you, like, we're bringing in Preston Miller to work with the freshmen this semester. Preston is the director of the Preston Miller Project, and he has dancers that have performed. I mean, that's great and all, but what else have they done besides something that they had to make on their own? Right? Like, at what point did another company or institution or organization or TV show or movie come in and say, like, we see the work you're doing and it is of so much value that we would like to have that a part of it? Without that, there's no way to really know if this is really valuable or just lip service from a college, right? So, like, I just saw myself doing this on the screen. This is a dance parent workshop, unlike any other dance parent workshop. If you are feeling that, go ahead and hit that like button, because we're a little different over here. It's that real talk, not chit chat. Real talk. Marcita says, not a cruise ship. Yeah, a cruise ship. So for those that don't know, a cruise ship is kind of like, a lot of people look down on it because it's a very, how do I word it? I don't look down on cruise ships. Let me just tell you that. I really appreciate the role that they play in the dance professional development, but it's kind of like a starter job or it's a career job, right? Like, it's a starter job in that a lot of kids get it straight from college, and that's like your first thing. But it can also be a career job if you find the lane that like works for you in it, right? Like, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to just be a 2-year window. Like, I met a dancer at the Ailey show in Chicago. Ailey was here in March, and I went and saw my wife dance and did the whole thing. And in the audience was one of these dancers that I'd known, and they're a professional dancer. They're really talented, and I didn't know that they had left their company. And they were like, "Yeah, I'm doing the cruise ship thing. I've been doing that for the last 8 years." And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's great." And I could tell that they thought that I was judging it because the cruise ship thing is built as like this type of experience. But it's just because, you can't do that if you want to have a partner at home and want to raise a family and want to do, like, it's demanding. But it can turn into anything if you work it the right way. So yeah, I talk about my cruise ship, folks, because there's such a clear path. I remember when I graduated, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and one of my mentors, he met me at Starbucks, and he was like, "You want to do a cruise ship? You want to do a cruise ship, huh?" And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, the beach sounds good. And then I looked at the living accommodations that they give you on the cruise ship, and it is not like living. It's not like paying for the cruise. Let me put it like that. It just reminded me of the scene in Titanic where everybody who worked on the cruise died. That's all I could see. But it's a lot better than that. It's a lot better. I know dancers that go on cruise ships and have the time of their life. Actually, my best friend in high school, he's on a cruise ship right now. He just proposed to his fiance, and he's on a cruise ship now. He's a musical theater dude. So yeah, no shade to the cruise ships. No shade. Let's see here. Erica ET, what's up? It's just a little different. Yeah, we're a little different over here. Just a little different. Just a little different over here. I'm excited for Olivia to come and get some of that this summer. This summer, we got a big year ahead of us. We got to get ready for. Carla says, yes, you and TDA Prep are so valuable in so many ways. When I find a bit of time, I think I'm going to write a really long. Oh man, Carla, that's great. That's great. I'm glad you and Tiana made it home safely. All right. That's that's a good one. That's a good one. All right. So I love my parents to write long emails. I really do. I read them. I really like itemize and get back. It might take me a second, but I get back. But Carla, you hit me with an essay that I really have to dive into and make sure, because it's a heavy one too. It's like a thesis. I have to really make sure I answer you correctly here. So I'm taking my time with it, but I see you. I'm coming. All right, so let's bring this home. This is the last part of this we're going to talk about is what can you do? Like, what can parents do? because the dance world is changing. We're in the season of change. We're not in a golden era where it's just, set it and forget it and it's going to work. We're in a season of change. If your kid is going into college, Erica Taylor, if your kid is going into college in the next few years, the dance world will be a different world when they leave college. But whereas if you went into college in 2013, 2017, it's the same world, right? Like COVID is the big flag where now things are in flux, right? So what can we do? The biggest thing that I wish I could help parents, like if I could just like force a situation onto parents, it would be that you embrace a customized journey. Like this is what I learned the most from my students is that, my generation, we were sold on having the best. And the generation before us, we were sold on having the best. It's the biggest flat screen TV. Don't you want that one? It's the nicest car. Don't you want that one? We were sold on that. That's our identity. We want to be able to say it's the best, it's the biggest, it's the thing, right? The generation behind us, this Gen Z and younger, they're more focused on it being something that fits into the life that they want to have, right? It needs to be custom built for what I want. It's the biggest, sure, but I don't have the biggest house. I don't need that, right? I need something that is the best for what I have. And that is the industry. That's what the industry is starting to reflect. So for parents that are like, all right, I'm a part of, the biggest dance studio in the country, and they do this. Like even TDA Prep, for parents that are like, I go to TDA Prep. That's all I do. Boom, they're going to get me into college. That's great, but it's not as effective as if you take some ownership over it and use TDA Prep to help you customize your journey. Don't go to any one place. Go to a bunch of places. One of the rules that we have when you train with us, like when you come to one of our in-person training weekends, you have to go train somewhere else throughout the month at some point, because you don't know if what we're teaching you is working unless you go somewhere else to dance. And I know that for a lot of parents right now, like that's not even reasonable. Like you might work a full-time job, you might not have the time, you might not be in an area that has a lot of great stuff for you. But this is where the industry is moving. And so it might not need to be like a time commitment on your part. It might just need to be an energy commitment about embracing a mental attitude of a customized journey. I know you go to this studio. I know that this is the way that they do things. But what happens if you don't join the competition team and you go do your own competition tour and we travel around to competitions as an independent? Or I know that you are a part of this experience, but what if we did this experience that could check the exact same box, but in a way that works for us, right? So I told a family this week that is considering leaving a dance studio. I said, well, what if you left the studio part that is the company because you don't like doing the conventions with them? You think it's a toxic environment when you're in rehearsal. And then instead of going and doing conventions, what if you started to do like high profile workshops across the country this year? Like the Galen Hooks method, like coming to TDA Prep, like going to the space. There's so many. Jacob's Pillow, or as a parent called it earlier in one of our meetings, Jacob's Ladder. You could either one. Jacob's bedtime sheets, whatever it is, go to Jacob. There's a lot of experiences now that are for families that have the flexibility and the time. And if you can wrap your mind around a less rigid structure, you will have a more rich experience, especially if you have a coach like us at TDA Prep helping guide you through that customized journey. That's the first thing, right? Whenever I tell a parent that like they're not going to be able to get everything that they need at one studio, it's either like, okay, where do we go from here? Or it's like, oh man, really? And for those parents that are like, oh man, really, I want to just shake them into why would one place work for you specifically? That's not what it's designed to do. That's not what most places are designed to do. You have to bootstrap this thing together from a lot of places to have the best possible scenario. You know McDonald's fries with that burger from Five Guys just hits a little different. The best parts of being an adult are putting a meal together from 8 different locations and no one can tell you no. So the same thing would be true for, the workshops and the education opportunities for your student. That's the first thing. The second thing that parents can do, based on where we are and where we're headed, is you can focus on quality and consistency over quantity. And quantity means a lot of things. Really, when I say quantity, I mean like the biggest. There's a parent that I like, a parent archetype that I have in my mind that I call the parent that's looking for the next big thing, right? Like, they come into the studio, they work with me, and then they leave, and I like see them on social with a celebrity, or like doing the biggest workshop with the famous people, and it's like, you're looking for the next big thing, right? And that's really it. And I might be the next big thing in your mind, or they might be the next big thing, but that's not the way to move. You really want to find something that you believe in, that you know is good, and then get time and consistency with that, because it takes time to build rapport. It takes time to start to get to know each other. Especially if the situation is complicated. Like, I went to a new barber this week, and my hairline is complicated. And so it is nice to have a rapport with a person that knows my specific situation. Because once you get around these parts right here, it gets a little uh. So focus on quality and consistency over quantity. We don't want to just look for the next big thing, or the thing that's doing the most. I get to perform 300 times this year. That might not be the best thing for you. It might be, but let's focus on quality. What's the quality of instruction? Well, the quality of instruction is really good. What makes you say that? They have 1 million subscribers on Instagram. Instagram doesn't even do subscribers. See that? They have 1 million followers on Instagram. Well, that's not quality, right? What makes up quality when it comes to dance education is a teacher's experience. What have they seen before? Who have they worked with? Will you be presenting them with a scenario that they have never seen before? Is your dancer the best dancer that teacher has ever coached ever? Is their experience in coaching, or is it in dancing, right? Like, take a second to really determine what the level is. What's the quality of what you're getting, right? And then the very last thing that I would recommend for parents, that is a big one. This is a big one, is play the long game. Winning, I say this every week, and I say it in jest, but this is a very, very true state. This is what I feel very passionately about. Your dancer won't care if they're the best in the studio, if they were the best in the studio when they get to be 20 years old. Your dancer won't care if they won platinum, if they came in first overall, if they did any of the stuff that either makes our ego feel good or makes us feel embarrassed. They won't feel any kind of way about that when they're 20. I remember in high school being very passionate about, like, oh, I didn't get this thing, or I want this thing. I can't remember what those things were, y'all. I could barely remember some of the teachers. Like, I had a friend who was like, man, you remember that teacher? And I was like, who? Oh, yeah. So you want to lean into the things that matter. And short-term wins are great, but they don't matter a lot of the time. A lot of the time, the short-term wins are learning opportunities for how you handle those, or how you show up to work the next day and work even harder after you won, because now the mountain is bigger, right? Like, they're learning opportunities, but they're not things that should be framed and put up on the wall as the be all end all. If that is how you're doing this journey with your dancer, I can assure you that you are on the path to having a 40-year-old child that still wears their football Letterman jacket. That's the same idea. Like, a real funny story here, real quick. So I was, in New York, and this is when I was identifying as like a professional choreographer. I was choreographing across the world, and I was doing really cool things. And, I was teaching on the side, but I wouldn't tell people I'm a dance teacher because I was too embarrassed, right? I would be like, no, I'm a choreographer. I'm a choreographer. Have you heard of Beyonce? Right? I would go for the biggest thing, as opposed to, like, the thing that I enjoyed doing the most. And I came home. So I say I'm a choreographer because that's the mindset I had, right? So I'm like, I'm not a dancer, I'm a choreographer. So I come home, and I link up with my boys that I've known since I was 2. And there's about 15 of us, and we're like brothers. And they lived in Chicago all together at the time. And so, not all together, but like by each other in Chicago. And so they had this like flag football, touch football game that they would play every Sunday. And I love sports. I'm real competitive, and I love that I'm the dancer in the group. No one thinks I can play, and I get busy. So I was like, let's go out there and play. And I met them on my first Sunday, and one of my closest friends was wearing his high school football jersey. And I remember thinking, it doesn't fit anymore. I could see his little belly button hanging out and his little belly hanging out, his beach, dancers that train with us. That was all out and exposed. And the jersey didn't fit. And it was sad. It was, he was ready to play. And I was looking at him like, man, I'm not the friend who's not going to say something. I'm going to say something. So I asked him, before we started, because I also got to get in your head. I was like, man, did you save that jersey this whole time just for this? Like, it doesn't fit, bro. You look foolish. So what's happening right now? And you could just tell, like, those were his best moments playing that sport, high school. Those were his best moments. And because he didn't get an opportunity to go professional or take it to the next level, whatever that was in his mind, he was stuck there. And that was, what he had to deal with. And for a lot of dancers, that ends up being the case because high school, college, that's the best time where you're a student at a very high level. You're not in middle school trying to figure it out anymore. Now you can dance. And so there's all these experiences designed to make you feel good, feel good, feel good, feel good. But then when it's time to be a professional, you have to know how to make yourself feel good. And no one's ever really taught you that piece. And so it's really important that you play the long game. This is not about what you have going on this weekend. It's not about what you have going on this summer. It's about how those things play into your dancer's real full life. I mean, really think about it. When you're no longer here, if you're a parent on the Dance Parent Workshop, if you're lucky, your dancer will be here on this planet for a series of years when you're no longer here. If you're lucky, if you're a lucky one, right? And in that moment, when you're no longer here to advise them, what do you want them to have ingrained in them? That's what these short-term experiences are more about than they are, well, I got the trophy, and so that should take me here, or I worked with this choreographer, and so that took me here. Do you know that, like, I'd say 10 years ago, I could not, there was just, for some reason, it was like I could not get past certain choreographers. And when I say that, I mean, like, every student, I would be at a studio and I would choreograph bangers. Like, I would choreograph great pieces, like one YGP and did all this stuff. And then, like, a Travis Wall would come and there would be like 30 people signed up to get a solo from Travis Wall. People that I worked with and won with the year before, but now, like, a celebrity's here, is here. Well, now look, like, these, you just can't, don't make it about a short-term win. Make it more about the full experience, because you never know where stuff is headed and you never know what stuff can turn into. But you do know that there are certain principles that will serve your dancer no matter where they are in the journey, right? And that's what we're doing this for. That's what this is all about. Yes, y'all. I am such a fan of these Dance Parent Workshops. I am so excited because it's been a great school year of us crushing. I've met so many families through this experience that are just committed, and parents that are committed to their dancers that, believe in these dreams. I just can't imagine that, like, what feeling it is when a kid, your kid, looks you in the eyes and is like, no, I really want to pursue dance, because you don't halfway do that. You say that thing with a lot of passion and a lot of purpose. And throughout this school year, I have met a lot of parents that are very, very committed and focused on matching that energy that their kid shows up with. It makes me emotional because when a dancer tells you that they want to do something, it's very passionate. And then I feel that passion when you walk into my office and say, you got to help me. You got to help me, man, because I don't know what's going on. And so that, that inspires me. I hope that I can be that type of parent when I get to be a parent one day. This school year has just been awesome to work with you all and work with your students and get to meet you all, and then to figure out how we can serve you better in the upcoming year. And so thank you all for coming on this Dance Parent Workshop, not just today, but throughout the year. If you're watching this in the future, come on down to TDA Prep because we still gonna be kicking. We still gonna be having them dance parent workshops. And I hope that your year is wrapping up just as strong as our year has been. This is a great dance year. For those that are competing in like nationals or have things coming up, just make sure that you are focused along the way and that you take care of your bodies, because at the end of the year, I can tell you, I'm tired. I know my dancers are tired. And so you don't want to go and injure yourself right before the summer. So stay focused, stay in the routine. Don't get out of your routine. Don't get lazy right before the summer, because that's when big things happen. But please enjoy. Our last dance parent workshop of the year is May 31st. Next week? No, 2 weeks. And we are going to be taking a break from dance parent workshop for the summer while we go like cook up the dance parent workshop for the fall. We have such big plans, and I've learned this year that it takes time to execute those plans. And so it's hard to do it in the school year. So this summer, we're really going to take advantage of that time and get it all turned up so that by the time school starts next year, we're back with even more for y'all, more resources, more guest information, more interviews, just more everything, more intentionality. So thank you for coming on these calls. My wife is going to be a part of TDA Prep next year. I can't even believe it. I've been teaching 20 years, and this is the last year that I will be teaching without my partner. And that is really cool. I'm so excited for her to get to experience all of you families, because she really is the best example that I've ever seen for a young person to learn from. She's at the top of her game. She's one of the biggest names in dance, and she's one of the nicest people that you'll ever meet. And she's really found a very high quality of life for herself. And so as a director, I'm ecstatic that I get to work with her, but I'm even more excited because I know that the journey is just going to get better. It's just going to get better and better and better for students that are working with us. And for those that have the opportunity to work with us this year, it's going to be a special thing that we do together. And I'm very excited about that. So thank you, ET. I see you. The very first dance parent workshop. Can you believe that? I think it was May 22nd, 2020. It was 2 years ago today, like in 5 days, 2 years ago. That was just trippy. That was the beginning of something very, very special. So thank you, my ride or dies. Eric, I've known you for even longer than that. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I found the picture of Olivia and Jackie from back in the day. And this summer we have to get the follow up. And if we see you this fall, we got to the college picture and then put that next to, the other picture, because that was wild. That was wild. So thanks, y'all. Marcita, I see you. Man, I really appreciate y'all. Y'all are the bomb. I want you to have a great Tuesday night. 2 weeks is the last dance parent workshop. Nicole, I see 2 L's though, so it might be Nicolette, but Nicole, I appreciate you. Thank you. I got your summer applications. Those acceptances are going to go out within the next 48 hours. But we'll see your dancers here this summer. I am very, very excited about what's ahead. I hope y'all are too. Have a great night, and we will catch you on the next Dance Parent Workshop. Talk to you soon.